And welcome back. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz was booed off the stage at the Republican National Convention when he refused to endorse Donald Trump for president. As Trump's running mate Mike Pence tried to salvage party unity, a battery of protesters were arrested outside. Cruz was jeered off the stage when Trump supporters realized he was encouraging them to vote their conscience, not for the GOP nominee.
Vote your conscience, vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend our freedom and to be faithful to the Constitution.
In this election, there is only one candidate who will uphold the Constitution.
That was Newt Gingrich's attempt at salvaging what many see as Cruz's jealousy over Trump beating him to the nomination. The crowds were so angry, Cruz's wife was whisked away for her safety. Trump smiled and waved to supporters as Cruz was shamed with boos and later tweeted, "No big deal." His vice presidential running mate made up for the embarrassment by putting Trump haters in their place.
They keep thinking they've done him in, only to wake up the next morning and find that Donald Trump is still standing and running stronger than ever before. The man just doesn't quit.
All this as an anti-Trump protest outside erupted in chaos. Several people were arrested for clashing with police as they tried to burn a flag and block access to convention goers. In a peaceful protest nearby, demonstrators donned fabric walls to convince the electorate a vote for Trump is a vote for walling off Mexico. Back inside, another former GOP presidential candidate chose the high road and publicly endorsed Trump.
But unlike Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump is committed to cut taxes, curb spending, and get our national debt under control.
Trump supporters are eager for the fourth and final day of the RNC, when Trump himself will close the event with his convention speech. Melania Trump's speechwriter now admits she is guilty of plagiarism. In a letter of resignation, Trump staff writer Meredith McIver says she did use lines from Michelle Obama's 2008 convention address. The Trump family has rejected her resignation. McIver explains that Melania was inspired by Michelle Obama's speech. So when Melania read a few passages over the phone, McIver jotted them down and ended up using a lot of the same words. And for that, she's sorry. Donald Trump looked at the positive side of the controversy. He tweeted that his wife's speech got more publicity than any in the history of politics, and that all press is good press.
American prosecutors have initiated action to seize more than $1 billion in assets they say were stolen from a Malaysian sovereign wealth fund. U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch said high-level officials of the wealth fund, 1MDB, laundered the money through the United States. She said more than $3.5 billion was diverted through a web of shell companies and bank accounts in Singapore, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and America. The fund was created by the Malaysian government and overseen by Prime Minister Najib Razak. Lawmakers in Malaysia today demanded Razak go on leave and be held accountable for the U.S. action.
Hundreds of South Koreans today protested against the government's decision to deploy the Terminal High Altitude Missile System. The decision to install the THAAD system was made by South Korea and the United States to better cope with North Korean threats. South Korean President Park Geun-hye said today the decision was inevitable because of the growing threat. She told a National Security Council meeting Pyongyang's launch of 3 ballistic missiles on Tuesday is just the latest evidence that the defense system is needed. Meanwhile, North Korean television released photos of leader Kim Jong-un supervising a ballistic missile test. It's believed the pictures are from Tuesday's launches.
Hong Kong government plans to start implementing its scheme for so-called free kindergarten education by the 2018 school year. But as Winna Wong reports, some schools may still be able to demand fees from students.
In his latest policy address in January, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying officially announced the decision to implement free kindergarten education for the 2017-18 school year. It will replace the current pre-primary education voucher scheme. A circular released by the Education Bureau yesterday says nonprofit eligible kindergartens joining the scheme will be provided with money from the government. For basic half-day courses, there will be a subsidy of $33,190 per year for each student. For whole-day classes, $43,150 for each student, while long whole-day students will get $53,100 each. But if that's not enough to cover school expenses, the circular says parents should bear the cost. That's not to say schools can just name any price. Kindergartens will not be allowed to charge school fees exceeding a ceiling prescribed by the Education Bureau. For the 2017-18 school year, that limit will be $9,960 per annum for each half-day student and $25,890 per year for each whole-day or long whole-day student. This kindergarten in Chunwan coughs up about $230,000 for rent each month. It predicts that in the 2017-18 school year, the school will still have to ask for about $7,000 to $8,000 from each half-day student and about $200,000 from full-day students, even after subsidies. Principal Chung Yu-wei says there are over 100 kindergartens across Hong Kong, which are situated within private housing estates, like hers. Chung says the government subsidy will likely be enough to cover about a third of the school's expenses. The Education Bureau says it will meet with kindergartens as soon as later this month to discuss details of implementing the new scheme. Winna Wong, TVB News.
The MTR Corporation said today that its Kwun Line extension is set to go into service in the fourth quarter of this year. Managing Director Jacob Kam said the fares for the new service will be announced later. The railway company also hopes to have the South Island line fully operational by the end of this year. Kam admitted that the company is facing challenges in its Admiralty Station expansion project. All right, Chris, over to you.
Let's get down to it, because Russia has lost its appeal against an Olympic ban on its track and field athletes. Court of Arbitration for Sport rejected the appeal by 68 Russian track and field athletes seeking to overturn the ban imposed by the IAAF following allegations of state-sponsored doping. Moscow cried foul, calling today's verdict politically motivated. The International Olympic Committee will take the ruling into consideration on whether to impose a blanket ban on all Russian athletes. Pep Guardiola led his new team to his old digs for a preseason friendly. Bayern Munich got the better of Manchester City. Guardiola received a warm welcome on his return to